Hello, everybody. This is Ina Coveney, your salary replacement expert, and I'm here to tell you guys about guilt and being a solopreneur and a mother and a businesswoman and a wife and a homemaker and all of the things at one in a bucket. And I'm going to first set the stage for you. Pretend we're not in a quarantine, okay? I'm going to pretend that it is January 2020. Right? Even though it's April 13th at this point. It's January 2020. You guys, the pressure is on. I am running a program guiding people and creating their websites. I am launching things. I have side programs that I run at the same time. I am creating content. I am recording this podcast. I am going out and teaching my classes at podcastingclassesinboston.com. I'm doing all of the things, right? And at the same time, I am at home. I work from home. Mondays and Wednesdays are the days that I spend with my toddler. I only work 2 hours a day on those days. That's why podcasts are Mondays, right? Podcast days are Mondays because I have him. So I get 2 hours to actually do the podcast, and that's all I can do that day. And I spend Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays in meetings. Right? I have a lot of meetings. I talk to potential clients. I talk to current clients. I talk to people that I collaborate with. I talk to people who need my help on something else. I have past clients, old clients I want to catch up. I have, people to see, things to do, right? So my weeks are pretty busy. So my husband comes home at night. And because I have been home all day, if the house is a mess, it's something that is hard for him to understand. He's been coming around to the idea, right? I've been doing this at home for a couple of years now. So he's been getting around to the idea, the fact that I don't spend all day cleaning, right? I spend all day actually doing work. But there is a certain expectation that if he comes home, the house is not going to look like somebody just picked it up in a shoebox and shook it, right? I totally understand that. There was a time, I think it was back in 2018, when I was really busy for like 3 whole days. And for those 3 whole days, the house just started getting messier and messier and messier. And nobody was cleaning it up because, hey, I do everything, right? So he would start to be like, well, you understand that you got to keep the house clean. And I would just like blow my top off. Like, what are you talking about? I am working here, right? But the truth is that we all have to pitch in. We all have to do this. I couldn't afford, and it's something he can't do either, just ignore housework, right? We can't. And for a while, like for years, I have been thinking to myself, I do everything in this house. I do everything. I do every single thing around here. Why do I do everything? Why do I do everything? And we've had, like these discussions, these arguments where I'm like, I do everything. And he gets mad. My husband gets mad because he's like, no, you don't, right? You just don't, right? So we would have these arguments, and this is what's happening. Well, you're a solopreneur and also a mom and also a homemaker and also all the things. Now, I want you to add to that. Right now, we haven't even gotten to the quarantine yet, right? So add to that the guilt, right? The guilt of not doing everything perfectly all the time. The guilt that, when my husband comes home, I don't want him to lift a finger. And you're going to see, I'm going to show you a clip that I shared last week that explains these things a little bit of why I was feeling that way. I'm going to show that to you in a second. But this is what's happening. My husband comes home and I feel guilty if he has to lift a finger. It has nothing to do with whether he lifts a finger or not, or whether he's doing that often enough or not, or whether he thinks to himself whatever about him doing housework. It has nothing to do with him. I had guilt every time he moved a finger. And this came from, my upbringing. My mother always basically rolled out the red carpet for my father. It was just the way it was. They have a very happy marriage. I sent out an email to my audience last Friday about this. They have a very happy marriage. This is just the way it is, right? My mother is the one that does all the housework. My mother is the one that does the dishes and that does the laundry and that, and my father, sometimes he helps. Sometimes he will pick up, the laundry and will actually do it. And he prides himself in that. And that was like once a month. Right? But my mother usually does everything. So I have this expectation that not only should I be doing everything, regardless of whether I am or not, I should be doing everything. And not only that, I should be making it look effortless. I should be basically running this entire household, plus running a business, plus keeping the children educated and fed and entertained every second of the day perfectly, without any chance for reproach, without anybody telling me that I am not doing this right. I must be doing it perfectly all the time, at every minute of the day. And if anybody suggests otherwise, I would crumble. Because I'd be like, I'm just trying my hardest, right? So we're still in the stage of like January 2020, right? That was my life, January 2020, right? All of this guilt, trying to do everything at once. And I'm going to tell you, it's really, really hard to run a business and run a household, both things perfectly all the time, in making it look like it's not a big deal, like I'm not even spending any time on either of those things. They just happen magically, like I'm Mary Poppins, right? It's really hard to do. So anyway, that was my life. Then came the quarantine. Then came the stay-at-home order. Now, all the things that I was doing sort of in secret, right? All the things like, like keeping the house clean and keeping the laundry done, and all these things that I was doing in secret before my husband got home, I can't do in secret anymore, right? Like he's right here. So that's number one. The secrecy, the trying to do everything perfectly without anybody noticing that I'm struggling here, it went away. Number two, you basically took away, the quarantine, coronavirus, took away my ability to have long stretches of time actually working, right? Remember, I used to have 3 days where that's my business is all I did, right? And back then, back in January 2020, I still felt that it wasn't enough time. I was considering putting my son in daycare full time, but I'm like, no. This is something I really want, to spend time with my son. So I'm going to have to make it work this way. This is my constraint. This is my life, right? But now you take those days away because there is no daycare. And now you add again that my son, my 8-year-old, I have a 2-year-old and an 8-year-old. My 8-year-old is not going to school. So add to everything I just told you, the work, the keeping the house clean perfectly, add to that being the perfect homeschool 2nd grade teacher. I want my children to be entertained and to thrive and to learn. And I can't do everything. So like the house of cards started to collapse, right? Everything started to crumble. This is not normal. This is not okay, right? So last week, I had a conversation with my mentor, Gladys Otto. She's amazing. She has this magic she has this magic way of reaching into your subconscious and putting it on the table and saying like, react to this. She can do that. It's just magical. So I had a conversation with her this past week where we talked about this. We talked about guilt. We talked about feeling like I need to be Superwoman. And she pointed out a couple of things that were really helpful. Number one, that this guilt that I feel over not being Superwoman all the time is something that is also affecting my business. It's also affecting the way that I show up in my business. So I don't know if you guys heard my Ask Me Anything session that I did last week. It was epic. You can still find it in my Facebook group. If you go to the units, you can click on Q&A. And I put it in there in the Q&A bucket. It's called Ask Me Anything. And one of the questions that somebody asked me in the AMA was, how do I delegate my work? How do I delegate things in my business? And I explained, the couple people who helped me out here and there. But I admitted I am terrible at delegating. I am awful. I have this thing where I have like hog all the work. I have to do everything because I'm the only one who can do it right. And like quote unquote, right? That's like my belief. I'm the only one who can do this, right? And that's how it's showing up in my business, is having the Superwoman complex, is feeling like I need to do everything all the time. I'm the only one who can do this right. And when she said that, I'm like, wow, well, that's not how I want to show up in my business. Not how I want to come out to the world, that I feel like I'm the only one who can do this. I want to delegate. I want to free up my time. I want to do this. So that kind of started the wheels turning. And she asked me to think about that a little bit more. And she asked me to really think about how guilt is affecting everything. So I thought about it some more. And that's when I went on live on Facebook. And I basically said, I don't have an agenda. I just want to know if anybody else feels this way, feeling like I need to do everything perfectly. And right now it's impossible to do everything and to do everything perfectly. I have people who are great teachers telling me, hey, this is all you have to do for teaching. I'm like, great. That is like 5% of my job right now is the homeschooling. When it's really more than that, but it's like, that's just one piece of the things that I need to do. I also have a business to run. Also have a launch to do. I also have my house to keep clean. So homeschooling, I understand, is not 5%. It's actually a big part of it. But even though I've already subtracted hours from my business, is still a lot. So I went live, and that's what I said, and I'm going to show that to you in just a couple of minutes. But I want to tell you that something else happened after I recorded that video. A conversation that I had that completely flipped my perspective on guilt. It flipped it. After that conversation, I felt the weight of the guilt just drop off of my body. And I'm like, I must share this with people. I gotta share this with someone. And that's why we're talking about this now. I know that we're already a little bit ways into this podcast, but I really want you to listen to this Facebook Live that I did on my personal page and in my group, where I explained to you how I was feeling and where all these feelings came from. Okay, so I want you to listen to that right now. And when you come back on the other side, I'm going to tell you what changed and how things are different now. Okay, nothing is perfect yet, but things are getting better, and I want to tell you what happened. So listen to this. I'm going to start with a video, and you might please forgive the quality of the audio. I did not have my podcasting mic. I just pressed live and it was just on my computer's microphone, so the audio is not going to be great. I'll be back on the other side. Listen to this. Hi everybody. So I feel like a truck ran me over and then backed up and ran me over again. And I don't really have an agenda for this thing. I felt like just asking anybody if they feel this way, because okay, so we've been in quarantine for 3 weeks, and we have been on the lucky side of things. We are not sick. We don't know anybody who's sick. We have been staying at home, getting our groceries delivered, cleaning everything up when we get our groceries. Everything has been working that way. But, and my husband, he gets to, work all day, and which is great. I know he really appreciates the fact that he can go and do work upstairs, and I'll take care of everything else. And this is just my story of my quarantine. I understand there's other people out there doing much worse. And I understand that. I understand I'm in the lucky spectrum. Still, this is my experience. This is my story. In that I have always felt, because this is kind of what I saw growing up, I've always felt like I need to do everything. Like I'm the one who's on the hook for taking care of the kids and taking care of things in the house, and also doing work, because I have dreams. I want to do things. I do things that I love to do. And now that we're all in here, that my son doesn't go to school, that my son doesn't have daycare, and I'm really on the hook for taking care of everything, it's a lot. It's a lot. Yesterday was a particularly hard day. It wasn't hard again, I'm on the lucky spectrum here. It was hard in that I was up since 5 a.m. doing client work. And it was hard in the fact that, I'm homeschooling my son, and I'm not a second grade teacher. And this doesn't come naturally to me. This is not something that I draw joy from doing. It's something I've tried to make fun for him, fun for me. But the truth is that he's starting to feel the strain. He's 8 years old. He's starting to feel it. That because we're just everybody's just doing their best. He's like 8 years old going on 14, kind of like rebelling against things I ask him to do. I don't know what to do about it. I can only explain to him, look, this is just as hard for me as it is for you. Please cut me a little slack. Please give me a little break. If you're gonna give me attitude, go to your room. I can't see it. I can't deal with it. And he's been, rebelling in his own way. So we're trying to work together here. My toddler, I have guilt that I'm not doing enough for him, that I'm not doing enough crafts with him, that I'm not teaching him enough things. He just kind of like a puppy. He just kind of like runs around and plays with things and walks around and talks in his little voice. And, if he saw me that I'm on a video right now, he would come and join me in the live and be like, hi, hello. He's trying to keep himself entertained. I feel guilty that I haven't made time to help him do other things, because at the same time I have a job, I have things to do, and these are things that I like doing. So yesterday was a long day from 5 in the morning until I had a meeting at 5:45. Thankfully, that's the time my husband took over. I took care of the kids, and I went to my room and I had my meeting. And then I had a big Ask Me Anything session that I did for my audience. It was a 2.5 hour session, and I draw a lot of energy from that. I love doing those things. And by the end, I was so jittery and I had the biggest headache. And I went to bed, and it was so hard to fall asleep because of all the adrenaline from having gone live and having done that. And my husband was a dear. He brings me my Tylenol with a piece of bread because he knows that I can't swallow pills with just water. I have to have them with something to eat. He was amazing throughout. And I feel very lucky to have him, very lucky that he's such a wonderful person. Like I said, I'm in the lucky side of the spectrum, but it's really hard to feel guilty all the time, to feel like I'm not measuring up in a lot of ways. I'm not saying this for sympathy. I don't want sympathy. I just want you to know that if anybody out there feels the same way, that now that you're home and taking care of all the things, this superwoman complex that I have, that I've created for myself, and all this guilt that comes with wanting to do everything and needing to do everything and needing to be perfect at everything, it's been amplified in this environment, and it's taking its toll. I don't know if I'm alone in this. I don't know if I feel guilty for even speaking about it, because I'm supposed to just be perfect. I'm supposed to have everything under control. I'm supposed to just make everything seem easy and seamless, and like I got everything under control. And it's really hard to do things that are hard and almost doing them in secret, doing them in a way that people won't figure out that I'm actually struggling. And it's hard because I have a business that is based on personalities, based on everybody telling me what great energy I have, and them loving everything that I put out there. And the thing is that I love what I do, and I love putting all that stuff out there. I love doing the videos, and I love answering people's questions, and I love helping people out. And that's not all me. The other side of me is keeping up this house, keeping up with laundry. Laundry is like it's its own mutant agent that continues to duplicate and duplicate. Laundry is my virus in my house. How do I keep up with all the laundry? And my husband this weekend, he took it over. He said, I'm doing the laundry. It's fine. And I have to say thank you. Thank you for doing that, rather than what my normal stance is. No, wait, you're not meant to do anything. I'm meant to take care of you all the time. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting to have to make everything seem like it's working and like everything is perfect. And I was trying to make breakfast for myself this morning, and I was making arepas, which is a very, very wonderful Venezuelan dish. I hadn't made it in so long. I had to order it online because I can't buy it in stores. And I was mixing it while at the same time holding the phone on, talking to my father about why he can't why his browser is automatically downloading PDF files and not opening them without downloading them, and how is that's a real pain for him, and I'm trying to help him out. I had to be like, okay, I gotta go. I'm here mixing arepas. I gotta go. I put down the phone, and as soon as I did, I dropped the mixing bowl. I dropped it, and it shattered in a million pieces with my arepa dough in it. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, you manifested that, right? Like all this chaos that has been building and building, it's coming out in ways, right? It's coming out in me making a mess in the kitchen and not keeping up with laundry and having my son be mad at me for half the day because I'm being strict with work. Or Alejandra, I'm right there with you, Ian. It's exhausting. Thank you. So I say this understanding that there's people who have it worse. There are people out there who are sick. There are people out there who lost their jobs. There are people out there who don't know how they're going to pay rent next month. And I understand that. But I also have this story, and I just want everyone to know that it's going to be okay. I'm making you feel better about me. It's like talking to me, right? It's going to be okay. But at the same time, it's hard to, pobrecita, just jumping in. Don't feel bad about your feelings. Thank you. I don't want to feel bad about my feelings. I feel guilty for having them and not measuring up. So, am I alone in this? Is everybody else feeling guilty for having feelings about things not going right and having so many balls in the air and not being perfect all the time, right? I'm entitled, and thank you. That is very nice of you to say about leading. That's a concept I always struggle with. I'm the working bee, not the leader. And it's something that I'm really trying to step into. Alejandra, no. We're going through some flavor of this. It must be so overwhelming. It really is. So thank you guys for listening. I've been just talking without really saying anything for 10 minutes. I just wanted you guys to know that as much as you see me online and you see me happy and you see me doing wonderful things that I love to do, you guys, when I'm in my Facebook group, I'm in my element. That's my people. That's like home. I love being there and love teaching and love talking about the things that I love talking about. And last night was proof of that. I was live for 2.5 hours last night, just answering questions, and it was wonderful. It's like, oh my God, like energy, right? And then I wake up today. I'm like, okay, I need to give myself a little bit of a break. Yesterday, I only ate once. I had some pasta at 5:30 p.m. Today, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have breakfast, and then this thing with the arepas happens, right? So yeah, I would love to know how you guys have been affected by this, and I want you to know that it's okay to know that there are other people who have it worse, but we're all experiencing some version of this, right? Even though that's not your intention to lead. People will follow you because they want to follow your steps and learn by your example. It's very nice of you to say thank you. So, if you're still watching, I would love to know how this has affected you guys so that I don't feel so alone in this, so I don't feel so guilty about having these feelings. And because I'm fully aware of how lucky I am to have a roof over my head, to know where my mortgage payment is coming from next week, next month, to have food, right? To have a healthy family. I know how lucky I am. I wish that was enough to make all of this just go away. And sometimes it's not, and these feelings have to come out some way. So imperfection is elemental of being human. You're doing the best you can. Family is grateful. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, guys. So onwards and upwards. Let me know how this is affecting you. I would love to be able to support you and to tell you, hey, it's okay, I'm in the same boat. Would love that. And yeah, I don't have anything else. This is not a teaching live. This is so you guys know it's not perfect all the time. And we're all just doing our best. Alejandra, besides everything, I also feel you on the arepas. Dang it! I picked up another bowl. I first I cleaned up because my sons were running around the house. First, I took a broom and I grouped everything into a corner. I'm like, I'll clean it up later. I just wanted arepas. So I got another bowl and I mixed a new batch. Like, I'm having arepas right now. Thank you, Deb. I feel your hug. All right. I am gonna leave you before I make more of a fool of myself. But we're all in this together, guys. We're all going through this, and it's not perfect for anybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Pretty powerful stuff, right? I got amazing responses from people all over who were feeling exactly the same way. And I'm so thankful for them. So I still had that stuff in my mind when I had a conversation with my friend, Dr. Riva Robinson. Riva is a functional medicine doctor. I mention her, I feature her all the time because she's amazing. And she helps me with wellness and eating right and exercise and you know all the things keeping your body aligned with what you actually want to do. And we were having this conversation about guilt. And after talking for an hour and really taking pieces of my conversation with Gladys, taking pieces of that video that I shared, taking pieces of that email that I shared that Riva read, we arrived at a point where I said, I really don't want to feel guilty anymore. I want to just shed the guilt without really, you know what? I want to be able to have a life at home in this circumstance where I'm not a ball of anxiety 24/7, where I'm feeling like I'm not measuring up at every turn, where every time that I look up, I see proof of how I have failed, right? If my son is watching TV, if my little dude, my 2-year-old is playing on a phone, right? If my husband is not complaining, like saying like he doesn't know what to have for lunch, right? If the laundry is piling up, every time that I look up, everywhere I turn, there were signs that I was failing. And I'm like, I wish I could just get rid of that. I wish I could just do my best and just not feel so freaking guilty about not doing it right and perfectly all the time, right? And then she said the magic words. And this is where I'm going to tell you, like, it's just so simple, but it's something flipped in me. And I'm going to tell you the consequences that had. She said, okay, well, just don't feel guilty, right? Just what can you do to get rid of the guilt? And I'm like, oh, gee, I hadn't thought about that before. Just get rid of the guilt. Riva, that is so smart, right? Like, not really. I'm like, I'd already, like, that, what can I do with that, right? And she said, well, like, what do you have to do? And I'm here thinking, well, you know what? It's like when I talk to my kids. I can't just tell them, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. I have to tell them what to do instead. And that tends to be a lot more fruitful when you're talking to kids. So you can't just tell me, stop feeling guilty. I got to replace it with something. What am I going to feel instead? And she said, great question. What do you want to do instead? And I thought about it for a second and I remembered. So I shared this on an email, but I'm going to tell you that story right now. My parents, my mother does everything for my dad, like everything, every single thing. And one day, if you got my email, you'll recognize the story. One day, my father, he just kind of like made a jab at my mother because she showers before he does. And when he gets out of the shower, he has to take a towel and wipe the floor and wipe the edges of the edges or the door. Like the details escape me. I'm not really sure of the details, but I know that after he finished showering, he has to wipe something. And she doesn't have to because she knows that he's coming right behind her. So it's kind of useless. Like the thing's going to get wet anyway. I don't really know exactly what it is. So, if you think it's like, she's leaving the floor wet and my father is going to slip and fall, that's not the case. It's just something like that. Okay. Just something like that. And my father, went and made a little jab at her and told her, oh, well, like what a great life must it be to never have to worry about wiping that thing after you shower. That must be so nice. Honey, tell me, what is life like when you don't have to think about wiping that thing? And my mother's like, I don't know. What is life like for somebody who wakes up in the morning and breakfast is just served for them? Tell me, what is life like when you finish having breakfast and you just get up from the table and walk away because somebody else is going to clean it up? No, wait, tell me what is life like when you leave your room and then when you come back later in the day, your bed is made? What is life like that? And he's like, like blah, 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 blah. And she's like, well, how about you clean up the tub after you shower and you just shut up about it, right? And I thought it was a very funny story. Like I said, they have a very, very happy marriage, but this has been their dynamic, right? And when I heard this story, I'm like, this is perfect because it shows you everything that she does for him that he doesn't even give a second thought about. And then I had kind of a realization because I have been feeling for years like I am my mother, like I do everything around here and my husband doesn't. But after I heard this story, I really sat down with reality in front of me and I thought, actually, I can't come up with that kind of list for my husband. He takes care of the kids. Especially at night, especially when I'm working. He takes care of the kids. I can travel, and he takes care of everything else. He has done laundry. He keeps the kitchen clean. If he sees the kitchen dirty, he will clean it up. There is nothing that I can come up with a list like that about him. And it was a huge realization for me that I'm like, wait a minute. Maybe this is just all my guilt talking. My feeling like he shouldn't move a finger. And when he does move a finger, I feel guilty. So it's bad if he does and it's bad if he doesn't, right? So I'm like, wait a minute, like that's not right. When I was talking to Riva about what to feel instead of guilt, my first thought was, I should feel gratitude. I should be thankful. When my husband has to figure out his own lunch, when my husband has to figure out his own dinner, when my husband has to clean the dishes, when my husband has to, take out the trash, when he has to do all these things that in my mind I have told myself is my job, when he does those things without complaining, I should feel thankful. And as soon as I said that, I should be thankful that he's doing. I should be like, thank you, honey, for doing that stuff. Rather than feeling, oh my God, I'm the one who's supposed to be doing it, and therefore I'm a terrible wife. I should be feeling thankful that he's doing it. And at that moment, I felt something change, and Riva was there, and I'm like, whoa, something just happened. Like my stress, it just dropped. And she's like, yeah, you just experienced an energetic shift. I'm like, what? That sounds so woo-woo, right? It just it dropped and my energy changed. Like I started speaking louder and faster, and she's like, that was great. That's exactly what you should do. So from that point on, every time that I would see my husband do something, I would say, thank you so much for doing that. Thank you so much for allowing me the time to do this. And he's looking at me like I'm weird. He's like, I'm allowing you. Like, I don't allow you to do anything. You just do your thing, right? He just supports it. And it just opened my eyes that I have been telling myself a story that is not true. I've been telling myself a story that I'm the one who always does everything, that I'm the only one who can do those things, and that I have to do them perfectly. And all of a sudden, it was like, no, I have a partner who actually does these things. I should be feeling thankful. So after that, we had a conversation, me and my husband, where I asked him for help. Because just because I didn't feel guilty anymore, it didn't mean that I didn't have too much on my plate. So I said, I need help. And then I started to notice that I wasn't approaching the conversation from a guilt perspective. I was really listening to what he was saying rather than feeling like, oh my God, I shouldn't be asking this and he's getting mad at me for asking. I started to notice that there were other things at play, other concerns that we had to figure out, other relationship dynamics that we had to think about that had nothing to do with my guilt. So it opened things up. And now he's going to be helping me a little bit more during the day as much as his job allows him. But I've kind of let go of that. And it has been life-changing, if that's what I'm getting out of this quarantine. Letting go of the guilt, doing what I can, doing the best I can. Right? So today we started a new homeschooling routine with my son. And instead of trying to keep his day busy all the time, I listened to what the teacher said. The teacher said, hey, just keep him doing work for like 90 minutes a day. I'm like, well, I'm not sure what to do with the rest of the time, but I'm sure we can figure something out. So today we started a new routine. And I'm going to be getting up early with him so that he's not alone and figuring things out on his own. I can walk him through things. And things are going to be just a little bit different. But I felt much more different today than I felt last Monday, right? Last Monday, it was like the world is coming to an end because of the homeschooling situation. And now it's more like I have to do homeschooling. I also have work to do. I also have housework to do. I have a great partner who's helping me as much as he can, but I can only do what I can. I can only do what I can. But the message that I wanted everybody to leave with is that if you're feeling like Superwoman or Superman, and you feel like you are doing all the things and that's your reality, I want you to start noticing how much help you actually get. And to tell yourself a different story, that you are not the only one who can do these things. You can start delegating these tasks. You can start being thankful when people take them off your plate. The fact that somebody's taking things off your plate is not a reflection on you. It's not a reflection on how much you have been helping so far, right? Just accept the help and be thankful for it rather than feeling guilty that you're not doing everything perfectly, because I'm telling you right now, it is inhuman, it is unrealistic, it's impossible to be in this situation and do everything perfectly. So that's really what I wanted to share with you guys. And I hope that this reaches some ears out there who needed to hear this, because I want you to start thriving during your quarantine and to stop stifling yourself and to stop wilting like a little flower, right? I want you to thrive during the quarantine. I want you to remember that we all, under normal circumstances, we all have restrictions and constraints and boundaries set around us that and limitations that prevent us from getting from A to B. We already have constraints. This just became a tighter constraint, but it doesn't mean we can thrive in it. Okay? It's not a physical constraint. We can get our minds around getting out of that constraint. Okay? So for your mental health, I hope this helped. And if you would like to leave me a comment and tell me what your story is, I would love to hear it. I would love to hear if this helped you, what your biggest takeaway was. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you can just do that by leaving a comment on iTunes, leaving a review on iTunes. I read those. And Otherwise, for everybody on the podcast, just join the Facebook group. That's when we can start a real conversation around this. Go to inacoveney.com/Facebook. Spell Coveney right. It ends in EY. But that's basically what I had for you guys this Monday. I hope you have a wonderful week despite all of these restrictions. Change starts inside, not on the outside. Okay? We can do this. We got this. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Yay, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Click right here and check out the podcast Trailblazing Out of Corporate Life. I'll see you there.